As Earth's last defenses crumbled beneath the overwhelming might of the Zorketh Empire, Admiral Cassandra Steele stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, humanity's last remaining warship. The deck hummed with the deep vibration of the ship's engines, but the crew's voices were absent, their faces pale and grim, knowing what awaited them. The latest attack had crippled most of their remaining fleet, and Earth's cities were already burning from the invaders' orbital bombardment. The situation was dire. "We're running out of time." Admiral, Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Holt's voice crackled over the comms, his words laden with worry. "If we don't act soon, Earth's going to fall. The Zorketh are already launching a full-scale invasion. We'll be their next target." Cassandra knew he was right. Their forces, once the pride of humanity, were being systematically destroyed by the Zorketh's advanced weaponry and tactics. Their technological superiority was unmatched, and their brutal tactics had left little room for resistance. Yet Cass, her mind racing with 1,000 ideas, refused to accept defeat. Humanity had always thrived on its adaptability, its spirit, and its drive to survive. She could feel it deep in her bones. There had to be something they could do. "Hold your ground," she ordered, her voice steel-clad with determination. "We may not have the firepower to stand against them directly, but we have something they'll never understand. We have human ingenuity." Behind her, the crew exchanged uncertain glances, but Cass wasn't finished. She turned to her chief engineer, Dr. Lena Wong, who had been working tirelessly on the strange alien artifact they had uncovered weeks before. An ancient device buried beneath the ashes of Earth's capital, hidden for millennia. "Dr. Wong," Cass said, her eyes sharp, "what progress have we made on the artifact? Can it give us an edge?" Lena wiped her brow, her tired eyes alight with a sudden spark. "It's more than just an artifact, Admiral. It's a blueprint, something that could change the way we fight. The Zorketh won't expect it. I've already started adapting the designs. If we can integrate their technology with our own, it could give us a fighting chance." Cass's mind raced. If Lena's hunch was correct, they had a way to level the playing field. The Zorketh were a predictable enemy, always relying on their superior weapons and overwhelming force. But humanity was different. They didn't rely on sheer strength. They thrived on innovation, on making the impossible possible. She made a decision. "Activate the Crimson Wave Protocol. We'll use the knowledge from that artifact to reverse engineer their technology and develop new warships, something the Zorketh have never seen before. We'll outsmart them. We'll fight on our terms." The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as officers scrambled to implement the order. Dr. Wong set to work with her team, pulling up holographic blueprints and scribbling complex calculations on a nearby console. Cass stood in front of the observation window, staring out into the black void of space, her mind already racing ahead, envisioning the battle that was coming. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but Earth's survival depended on this gamble. "Send the message out to every human-controlled colony," Cass said, her voice firm. "We're not done yet. The Crimson Wave is coming, and Earth's glory will sweep across the galaxy." As the message broadcast across the stars, Cass felt a spark of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The galaxy was vast, and the Zorketh might have thought Earth's time had passed. But humanity was not so easily defeated. They had the will to fight, to adapt, and most importantly, to win. The Zorketh were about to learn that Earth's real power wasn't in its weapons or fleets, it was in its people. And the Crimson Wave was only the beginning. The first waves of the Phoenix as reinforcements arrived in a chaotic flurry of light. Cass Steele watched as the ships, now equipped with reverse-engineered Zorketh technology and enhanced with Earth's unique design, emerged from the shadow of Earth's moon. The ships looked nothing like the warships humanity had once used. Their sleek, angular designs were fused with strange alien elements, organic lines of tech and bioluminescent patterns, capturing the essence of Earth's ingenuity combined with the alien tech they'd adapted. Dr. Lena Wong stood beside Cass, her fingers hovering over the console as they prepared for the next phase of their bold assault. "Admiral, the ships are ready, but we still don't know how the Zorketh will respond to this kind of force. We've designed them to be unpredictable, but we've never fought a full-scale engagement like this." Cass stared ahead, her eyes fixed on the distant galaxy where their enemies waited. "That's exactly why we'll win. The Zorketh are predictable. They expect brute force, overwhelming numbers, and raw power. They don't expect us to outthink them." A chill ran down her spine as a communication alert flashed across her screen, an encrypted transmission from the Zorketh fleet. "Admiral Steele." The voice boomed, deep and distorted. "You are wasting your time. Earth's resistance is futile. Your people have no place in the galaxy. Surrender now, or face total annihilation." Cass's lips twisted into a wry smile. The arrogance of their enemies was astounding. It was precisely that arrogance that had led the Zorketh to underestimate humanity time and time again. She didn't respond to the threat immediately. Instead, she turned toward the captain of the Phoenix. "Prepare to engage the Zorketh fleet," Cass ordered, her voice unwavering. "Deploy the Crimson Wave. We're not going to play by their rules." The human fleet surged forward, cutting through space with breathtaking speed. The newly designed warships, including the Phoenix, utilized technology that allowed them to phase in and out of subspace, a feat never before achieved by human ships. This gave them the element of surprise, slipping in and out of normal space, avoiding detection and attack. It was exactly the kind of tactical advantage humanity needed to break the Zorketh's stranglehold on the galaxy. But the Zorketh weren't easily caught off guard. As the fleet neared the Zorketh's forward position, Cass received an urgent message from her intelligence officers. "Admiral, they've detected our phase shift signature. They've already deployed a countermeasure, a spatial distortion field. We're going to have to fight them head-on." Cass's heart raced, but she didn't flinch. This was the moment they'd prepared for. With a steady hand, she activated the battle protocol, and the Crimson Wave launched its first strike. The void erupted in a storm of laser fire, missile barrages, and crackling energy shields. Zorketh warships, massive and imposing, loomed like monstrous shadows, their cannons lighting up the darkness. But the humans fought with an unexpected grace. Ships darted and wove through the chaos, unpredictable and nimble, their movements calculated with a level of precision that the Zorketh couldn't anticipate. Cass, in the midst of the fray, barked orders over the comms, coordinating with her fleet in perfect harmony. Her voice was a steady presence in the midst of the madness, her strategy unfolding like a chess match on the grandest scale. Engage their weak points. Focus fire on their engine cores and weapon systems. Don't let them regroup. For every Zorketh warship destroyed, 2 more took its place, but the humans didn't falter. The Crimson Wave's ships adapted to the changing tides of battle, their energy weapons feeding off the very enemy tech they had once feared. In moments of quiet, the ships flickered, their designs altering slightly to enhance speed or firepower depending on the battlefield conditions. "Cass, they're retreating," shouted Captain Garrett, a veteran officer stationed on one of the newly formed warships. "We've broken through their formation. The Zorketh are regrouping, but they're pulling back." Cass's pulse quickened. They'd done it. Against overwhelming odds, humanity had broken through. The Zorketh, faced with an enemy they couldn't predict, were beginning to retreat. The initial victory sent shockwaves through the galaxy. "Prepare to follow them," Cass ordered. "We're not letting them escape. This is just the beginning." As the Crimson Wave pushed forward, Cass felt a surge of adrenaline. The first victory was theirs, but the real war had just begun. The Zorketh were no longer the unquestioned rulers of the galaxy. Humanity had proven it was a force to be reckoned with, and Earth's glory would sweep across the stars. In the aftermath of the victory over the Zorketh fleet, the news of humanity's success rippled across the galaxy, igniting sparks of rebellion in the most unlikely of places. The Zorketh, once an unchallenged force, now faced a threat they hadn't anticipated. Earth, long thought to be a broken, isolated world, had become a beacon of defiance. The Crimson Wave had shattered the illusion of invincibility that the alien empire had cultivated for centuries. On the human-occupied planet of Arcadia, a group of resistance leaders gathered in secret. Their planet, like many others, had been subjugated by the Zorketh, and any sign of rebellion had been ruthlessly stamped out. But as whispers of Earth's victory spread, the rebellion began to take root in the shadows. Lena Chung, one of Arcadia's most respected commanders, paced nervously in the dimly lit command room, her fingers drumming against the table. "We have to move quickly," she said. "The Zorketh will tighten their grip now that they know Earth's fleet is gaining strength. If we don't act fast, we'll be crushed before we ever get a chance to strike." "Lena, we're not alone anymore," said Elias Finn, an experienced tactician and former Zorketh prisoner, now one of Lena's closest allies. "Earth's victory is our rallying cry. We've already seen what they can do. They're outthinking the Zorketh at every turn. We can do the same." The room fell silent, each leader feeling the weight of what was at stake. The Zorketh had the numbers, the weapons, the technology. But Earth's triumph had proven something profound: the strength of unity, ingenuity, and the will to fight. Lena turned to the map of the galaxy projected before her. "We need to connect the fractured resistance cells across the galaxy. Arcadia's not enough. Our fight has to go beyond this world. It has to be a movement. If we can unite with Earth's forces, the Zorketh won't be able to ignore us. And if Earth can break their line, we can follow." "We've already started broadcasting their victories," Elias said, tapping into the encrypted network. "The reaction is overwhelming. Systems that had been silent for years are now sending us coordinates, ready to strike." It was then that the communications console beeped, signaling a high-priority transmission. Lena's heart skipped a beat as she recognized the signal. It was from the Phoenix. "Commander Chung, this is Admiral Steele." Cass's voice crackled across the line, a mix of calm and urgency in her tone. "We've intercepted Zorketh communications. Our victory has drawn their attention. They're launching a counteroffensive, and we need to strike first. We're going to hit their supply lines in the Epsilon Quadrant, and we need your forces to join us." Lena's pulse quickened. This was the opportunity they'd been waiting for. Earth's fleet was calling on them to take action. "We're in, Admiral," Lena responded immediately. "We'll coordinate with your fleet and hit them where it hurts." As she ended the transmission, Lena turned to her team, her resolve hardening. "This is it. We strike now, or we lose the chance to truly fight back. The Zorketh won't know what hit them." Within hours, the rebellion's forces mobilized, and the first united strike against the Zorketh began. Lena's fleet joined the Phoenix and its reinforcements in a rapid, unexpected attack on the Zorketh's vital supply hub in the Epsilon Quadrant, a sector known for its dense asteroid fields, perfect for an ambush. Cass Steele's voice once again rang out over the comms. "The Zorketh will be too distracted by the disruption in their supply chains to mount an effective counteroffensive. This is our moment to cripple their war machine." As the human fleet sped toward the asteroid belt, Cass couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration. The odds were still against them, but the momentum had shifted. For the first time in years, the Zorketh weren't the ones setting the terms of the conflict. Humanity had seized control of the narrative. The ambush was swift and brutal. As the human fleets maneuvered through the asteroid fields, the Zorketh ships, caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, were annihilated one by one. The Zorketh had been so accustomed to overwhelming strength and precision that they had never considered the chaotic tactics that Earth's forces employed. The humans fought with an unmatched fervor, using the terrain to their advantage, attacking from unpredictable angles, and blending their advanced tech with ancient, guerrilla-style tactics. Coordinates locked. "Engaging main target now," Captain Garrett reported from the Phoenix. The Zorketh supply depot exploded in a massive chain reaction, sending shockwaves through the sector. Cass watched the display on the command console as enemy ships erupted in brilliant flashes of light. It was a victory, but Cass knew this was only the beginning. Earth had ignited the spark of rebellion across the galaxy, and it was only a matter of time before the Zorketh unleashed their full fury in retaliation. But the Crimson Wave had proven that humanity's strength lay in its ability to adapt, to unite, and to outthink its enemies. The rebellion was no longer just a handful of scattered cells. It was a united front, a force to be reckoned with. And together, they would fight for a future where Earth's glory swept across the stars. The victory in the Epsilon Quadrant was a turning point, but the cost was high. Earth's forces had managed to cripple the Zorketh's supply lines, but it was clear the alien empire wouldn't back down without a fight. Castile knew that while their triumph had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, it had also drawn the full attention of the Zorketh High Command. The stakes were higher than ever. The Phoenix and its allies were now on the move, traveling deeper into enemy space to strike at the heart of the Zorketh war machine. As the fleet made its way to the Pyrrhian system, a vital military stronghold, the tension among the crew was palpable. Every victory had been followed by even greater retaliation, and Cass knew that soon the Zorketh would come for them with everything they had. In the war room aboard the Phoenix, Cass and her command staff gathered around a holographic map of the Pyrrhian system. The map flickered as their intel officers fed in the latest data from rebel spies scattered throughout the galaxy. They were getting close to the Zorketh's most guarded secret, the Central Command Hub, a station that coordinated the entire Empire's military operations. "We've been hit hard," Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Emma O'Neill said, her voice tense. "Our forces have lost some of their speed advantages in the last few engagements. The Zorketh have adapted to our hit-and-run tactics. They're deploying more specialized countermeasures to deal with our phase-shift ships." Cass leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "They'll have to do more than that to stop us. We've already shown them they can't just overwhelm us with brute force, but they're still more organized, more prepared. If we want to win this, we need to throw them off balance, hit them where they least expect." Emma nodded. "There's one target they're underestimating, an old research facility on the moon of Nera. It was abandoned years ago, but there's still equipment there that could give us a significant edge." Cass raised an eyebrow. "You're suggesting we take on the Zorketh while scavenging old human tech?" "That's our plan." "It's not just any tech, Admiral," Emma replied. "It's technology from Earth's pre-war era, mechanisms they never fully understood. We can use it to outmaneuver their more predictable systems. It'll buy us enough time to strike at Pyrrhian before they can retaliate." Cass thought it over. The Zorketh had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, but they'd also underestimated how far Earth's people were willing to go to fight for their future. The idea of relying on outdated tech might seem risky, but perhaps that was what they needed. They had already proven that they could make the impossible happen. "We're doing it," Cass said firmly. "Prepare for immediate departure. I want our fleet to move out as soon as possible." The Phoenix and its allied ships jumped into the Nera system under the cover of darkness, their phase-shift technology cloaking them from any detection. As they neared the moon, the stark, desolate landscape of the abandoned research facility came into view, its once pristine structures now crumbling under the weight of time. The human fleet descended, and the scavenger teams were deployed to secure the facility. Cass watched from the bridge as their crews descended onto the surface in specialized landers. The moon's atmosphere was thin, and the low gravity made for a strange, surreal landscape. The eerie silence of the facility contrasted with the bustle of the teams as they began to uncover the long-forgotten tech. Dr. Lena Wong, the brilliant scientist who had helped reverse engineer the alien technology, was leading the charge. She quickly identified a long-forgotten arsenal of electromagnetic pulse devices, powerful tools capable of disabling the Zorketh's advanced weaponry. "Admiral," Lena's voice crackled over the comms, "we found something incredible. These devices were developed to neutralize enemy shields, and we've got enough here to outfit our entire fleet." Cass's heart surged with excitement. This was the kind of breakthrough they needed. The Zorketh's reliance on energy shields had been their greatest strength, but now humanity had a weapon that could neutralize it. "Bring everything back to the ship," Cass ordered. "We'll use this tech to turn the tide. The Phoenix is heading to Parian. Prepare for a full assault." As the scavenger teams loaded the weapons onto the fleet's ships, Cass felt a renewed sense of determination. The Zorketh had made the mistake of underestimating humanity once, and now they would pay the price. Earth's forces were about to take the fight to their doorstep. The Crimson Wave was growing stronger, and soon it would engulf the galaxy. The Zorketh had never seen anything like it. Cass Steele watched from the command center of the Phoenix as their fleet approached the Parian system, a bastion of the Zorketh Empire. The heavy defensive grid surrounding the system flickered as they struggled to assess the sudden, unexpected movements of the human fleet. Earth's ships, equipped with both alien tech and their own, were now capable of jamming enemy scanners and outmaneuvering Zorketh countermeasures. "This is it," Cass said under her breath, her voice steady. "We've done the impossible before. Now we'll make them believe it." The fleet emerged from the warp gate, shrouded by a cloaking field. They were within striking distance, but the Parian system was heavily fortified. An entire Zorketh fleet and an orbital defense ring guarded the military command hub, the true heart of the Zorketh's strategic power. It was a place they had fortified so thoroughly, the Zorketh believed it was impenetrable. But that belief was about to be shattered. "Admiral Steele," Lieutenant Commander Emma O'Neill called out, her eyes glued to the readout. "The Zorketh are reacting. They've already begun to deploy their reserve fleet. Looks like they expected us, or at least a distraction." Cass's lips curved into a cold smile. "Then they won't be ready for what comes next." She turned to the rest of her staff, her voice unwavering. "We've made every move unpredictable. The Crimson Wave doesn't fight like they do. Our strength lies in tactics. Hit them where they're weakest. Take advantage of every opportunity, and don't hesitate." Emma nodded. "They're already closing in on our position, Admiral. If we don't act fast, they'll neutralize our fleet." "Then we'll make sure they never get the chance," Cass replied. "Prepare the EMP weapons from Mara. We're taking out their shields." The human fleet advanced toward the heart of the Zorketh defenses, but Cass had no intention of engaging head-on. Their previous hit-and-run tactics had worked so far because they caught the Zorketh off guard. Now it was time to cripple the enemy's ability to defend itself. The pulse weapons from the Nara research station would disable the Zorketh's energy shields, leaving them vulnerable to a full assault. The battle began in earnest. Zorketh warships, massive and terrifying, charged toward the humans, their weapons flashing with deadly precision. But the humans had anticipated their moves. The Phoenix's cloaking field flickered for a moment, and then the first of the electromagnetic pulses struck. The shockwave sent ripples through space, knocking out the energy shields of the Zorketh warships in the vicinity. The Zorketh ships faltered, unable to protect themselves from the incoming human fire. "Now," Cass ordered. The Phoenix and its allies unleashed a barrage of laser fire, missiles, and energy blasts, cutting through the exposed Zorketh ships like a knife through butter. The Zorketh ships were slow to react, their weapons unable to return fire with full force. The sight of enemy ships crumbling under the human assault was a testament to Earth's ingenuity. Now, they weren't simply surviving, they were winning. But Cass knew the Zorketh would regroup. They were a ruthless species, and this momentary advantage wouldn't last long. "Incoming. Reinforcements are emerging from Parian Station." Emma called out, her voice tense. "They're sending their reserve fleet. It's a full assault." Cass didn't flinch. She had anticipated this move. As the Zorketh regrouped and their forces swelled, Earth's fleet continued to pour fire into their weakened defenses, relentlessly hammering them with every weapon they had. "Admiral, we've taken out the Zorketh's forward fleet," Captain Garrett's voice rang out, filled with excitement. The command station's shields are down. We can make our move now. Cass's eyes flickered across the battle. The perimeter defense was crumbling. She could see it now. The Zorketh's strength was in their unity, in their overwhelming numbers. But Earth's strength, it lay in their adaptability, their cunning, and the spirit that drove them. And right now, the Zorketh were caught in a trap of their own making. Deploy the assault team, Cass ordered, her voice firm. We're going for Pyrrhian Station. This ends now. The Phoenix and its allies moved in, their final approach swift and decisive. With the Zorketh defenses crippled, the station's massive metallic walls loomed ahead. Cass could see the station's central control tower, a towering spire of alien design, the nerve center of their military operations. The Zorketh commanders tried to mount a desperate defense, but the human fleet was relentless. Waves of human forces breached the station's outer defenses. There was no turning back now. Inside the station, chaos reigned. The humans fought through the corridors, their advanced tech and sheer determination pushing them toward their goal. Cass felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as they tore through Zorketh command posts, clearing their way to the central hub. This is it, Cass said to herself, steeling herself for what was to come. We take control of Pyrrhian, and we take control of the galaxy. With one final push, the Phoenix fired its final salvo at the core of Pyrrhian Station, and the explosion that followed sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The Zorketh had lost their foothold in the region. Cass Steele stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, staring at the destruction they had wrought. Their victory at Pyrrhian had shattered the illusion of the Zorketh's dominance. The galaxy was no longer theirs for the taking. Humanity had proven that they were the ones in control now. The Crimson Wave was unstoppable. The destruction of Pyrrhian Station was a pivotal moment in the war, but it was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. The Zorketh had lost a critical stronghold, and the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. Humanity, once seen as a fragile species on a distant backwater planet, had proven itself to be a force capable of toppling even the mightiest empires. Cass Steele stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, staring at the view screen as it displayed the wreckage of Pyrrhian Station. It had been a hard-won victory, but the cost was heavy. Earth's fleet had lost valuable ships, and many of the rebels' forces were battered, though far from broken. We've sent a message, Cass said, her voice resolute. The Zorketh will no longer have the luxury of thinking we're easy prey. But this won't be the last fight. They won't let a loss like this go unpunished. Emma O'Neill, her lieutenant commander, nodded. We've just opened a new front, Admiral. There's no going back now. The Zorketh will hit back with everything they've got. Cass turned to the display of the galaxy, her mind racing through their next moves. The Zorketh would regroup, and soon their fleets would be mobilized in full force. She knew they couldn't afford to rest on their laurels. Their victory at Pyrrhian had been a resounding success, but the Zorketh would not fall easily. Prepare for a tactical retreat, Cass ordered. We need to regroup, gather our forces, and hit them again before they can fully recover. We'll need to strike where they're weakest, and we need to find that weakness before they find ours. At that moment, the communications officer aboard the Phoenix interrupted. Admiral Steele, we've received a transmission from a new contact. It's encrypted. Cass raised an eyebrow. Open the channel. The screen flickered, revealing a figure in shadow, their face obscured by a hood. A voice came through, calm but urgent. Admiral Steele, this is Ambassador Tuvar from the Vocari Collective. We've been watching your campaign with great interest. The Zorketh's reach has extended into our territories for centuries. It's time for us to form an alliance. Cass's heart skipped a beat. The Vocari Collective was a formidable force, one of the few species that had managed to resist the Zorketh's influence. If the Vocari joined the rebellion, it would shift the entire strategic landscape. You've been watching us, Cass asked, her tone skeptical. And now you want to join the fight. Tivar's voice was steady, with a touch of something ancient and wise. Your victory at Pyrrhian has opened our eyes. You've shown the galaxy that the Zorketh are not invincible. We have long fought against them in the shadows, but now it's time to come into the light. Together, we can bring their empire to its knees. Cass felt the weight of the moment. The Volcari Collective was known for their advanced technologies and vast networks of spies. An alliance with them could provide the rebellion with a massive advantage. We'll need more than words to form an alliance, Cass replied, a slight edge to her voice. We need resources, we need ships, and we need a plan. Are you ready to give all that? Tivar's eyes gleamed with quiet confidence. We are ready, but we need your leadership, Admiral. Your ability to inspire and lead has already proven itself. Together, we can unite the galaxy against the Zorketh. Cass looked around the room, her crew silently waiting for her decision. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing on her, the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy hanging in the balance. They had already defied the odds, but now the stakes were higher than ever. An alliance with the Volcari could turn the tide of the war, but it also meant new challenges, new dangers, and even greater risks. We'll take your offer, Ambassador, Cass said finally, her voice firm. But we'll need time to plan. Earth's forces can't afford to spread ourselves too thin. We'll need a coordinated strike, one that will hit the Zorketh where it hurts most. The Volcari ambassador's face softened slightly. Time is a luxury we may not have. The Zorketh are already preparing to launch their counteroffensive. If we strike at the heart of their empire, we must do so before they can recover. Agreed, Cass said. Prepare your forces, Ambassador. We'll be in touch soon with a plan. The Crimson Wave isn't over yet. As the transmission ended, Cass stood silently, staring at the galaxy map once more. The Zorketh were far from defeated, but Earth was no longer the underdog. Their victory had drawn the attention of allies and enemies alike, and the forces of resistance were gathering like a storm on the horizon. The time for covert strikes was over. Now it was time to prepare for an all-out war. Cass turned to her crew. Get ready for what's coming next. The Zorketh won't back down, but neither will we. The storm was gathering, and soon the galaxy would know the full strength of humanity's fury. The silence in the briefing room aboard the Phoenix was oppressive as Cass Steele stood at the front, the map of the galaxy displayed on the holographic table before her. The alliance with the Volcari Collective had been forged, but the stakes were higher than ever. The Zorketh were in disarray, but Cass knew that their response would be swift and brutal. They would stop at nothing to crush the rebellion, and the first major battle was looming on the horizon. The Zorketh are regathering their strength, Cass said, breaking the silence. Our victory at Pyrrhion was only one blow in a much larger conflict. They'd fortified their core systems and are amassing their fleets. This next strike will determine whether we can keep the momentum or lose it all. Lieutenant Commander Emma O'Neill, standing beside Cass, glanced at the holographic map, her brow furrowed. We've been pushing them back at every turn, but they're not backing down. They'll come at us with everything they have. We need to be prepared for their counteroffensive. Cass nodded. The Volcari had promised to send reinforcements, but their fleets were still spread thin, and time was running out. The Zorketh had made it clear that they were no longer content with mere skirmishes. They were preparing to launch a full-scale retaliation. We'll be ready, Cass said firmly. We'll strike at their weak points. We know their patterns, their tactics. We can outsmart them. She turned to the Volcari ambassador, Tivar, who had joined the Phoenix crew in a strategic alliance. His people were legendary for their intelligence networks and their expertise in covert operations. Tivar, what intelligence do you have on their primary fleet movements? We need to know where their fleet is weakest. Tivar's voice was calm but tinged with urgency. We've intercepted communication from Zorketh High Command. They're planning a major offensive targeting our homeworlds, Earth, and the Volcari systems. Their intention is to crush the heart of our rebellion before it can gain any further ground. Cass's eyes narrowed. So they think they can strike us at home. A fatal mistake. But we can't afford to underestimate them. We'll need to hit first, hit fast. Precisely, Tivar replied. I recommend we target their supply routes, disrupt their communication networks, and cripple their ability to coordinate. If we can disorganize their forces before the full offensive begins, we stand a chance. Emma's voice rang out with a hard edge. That means we go for their core systems. Earth has its defenses, but the Vokari aren't fully prepared to face a Zorketh assault. Cass took a deep breath, weighing the options before her. The Zorketh were more ruthless and militarily advanced, but humanity had already proven that they could hold their ground and strike when it counted. Now, the rebellion had the resources and the knowledge of both Earth and Vokari forces at its disposal. We'll divide our forces into 3 groups, Cass decided, her voice decisive. The first group will hit their supply lines and sabotage their reinforcements. The second will target their communication and intelligence hubs. The third will be our primary force. Our main assault will hit the Zorketh capital in the Midway system. We break them there, and their entire war effort will crumble. There was a moment of silence, each officer processing the scale of the mission. This would be the final step toward taking the fight to the heart of the Zorketh Empire. It was an all-or-nothing gamble, but Cass had no doubt that the Crimson Wave was capable of pulling it off. We'll need precise coordination, Cass continued. Our timing has to be perfect. One mistake, and we could give the Zorketh the upper hand. I'll ensure our forces are ready, Emma said. We'll make sure everything runs like clockwork. We'll also need the Vokari's most advanced cloaking technologies for our ships, Cass added, turning to Tivar. We can't afford to be detected. Their early warning systems are too advanced. You're our ace in the hole. Tivar inclined his head slightly. Consider it done. We've developed an enhanced cloaking field that should be able to bypass their detection systems. Your ships will be invisible to them. Cass gave a grim smile. Perfect. The Zorketh won't know what hit them. The next few hours were a blur of preparations and last-minute adjustments. The Phoenix and its allies had to be ready to execute their strike with precision. Cass felt the weight of leadership on her shoulders. This mission would determine not just Earth's fate, but the fate of the galaxy. As the fleet began to assemble for the mission, Cass stood alone in her private quarters, looking out at the stars. The task ahead was monumental, but she had never been more certain of their victory. The Crimson Wave wasn't just a symbol of rebellion. It was the harbinger of a new era. An era where the Zorketh would no longer dictate the galaxy's future. They had struck the first blow at Pyrrhion. Now it was time to finish what they had started. Let's finish this, Cass muttered to herself. As the fleet departed toward the heart of enemy space, the countdown to the final confrontation began. The Zorketh had underestimated humanity before, and they would do so again. But this time, the tide would not turn in their favor. Cass Steele stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, watching as the fleet advanced toward the Midway system. This was it, the culmination of everything humanity had fought for. The Zorketh were no longer just a distant threat. They were an empire in its death throes, and Earth's forces were the ones poised to deliver the final blow. Admiral, we're entering Zorketh-controlled space, Lieutenant Commander Emma O'Neill reported, her voice steady. All groups are in position. The cloaking systems are active. Good, Cass replied, her tone calm but firm. We'll keep the element of surprise. No mistakes. The Vokari's cloaking technology had proved invaluable. Their ships had become invisible to Zorketh scanners, allowing Earth's fleet to infiltrate enemy territory unnoticed. It was a calculated risk, but one they had to take. The Zorketh were too entrenched to be taken down in a single open battle. They had to hit fast and hard, disrupt the heart of their empire, and leave the Zorketh scrambling for survival. Targeting systems locked, Emma said. We're ready to initiate the strike. Cass took a deep breath, her mind focused on the task ahead. She knew that this mission could either cripple the Zorketh beyond repair or spark an all-out war that could destroy everything they had fought for. But there was no turning back. Humanity's destiny had been forged in the fire of war, and they would not relent. "Prepare to deploy the first wave," Cass ordered. "Hit their command hubs and energy cores. We'll disable their fleet control." The first wave of attacks came in a blur, a devastating assault on Zorketh command stations, energy reserves, and fleet coordination centers. The enemy had no time to react. Ships were torn apart in an instant, their systems overloaded by the surprise strikes. The Zorketh fleet was thrown into chaos as their communication lines were severed, leaving them disorganized and vulnerable. "Good work," Cass said, her voice cold as she watched the results unfold. "Now, we go for the capital." The Phoenix and its allies moved swiftly toward the Midway system's heart, where the Zorketh had established their central command, an enormous, heavily fortified station surrounded by an armada of ships. The Zorketh had believed this fortress to be untouchable, an impregnable stronghold at the heart of their empire. But they had underestimated Earth. "We've detected a massive fleet incoming," Emma said, her eyes locked on the sensors. "Zorketh reinforcements. They're assembling at the station." Cass's grip tightened on the armrest of her chair. This was it, the point of no return. If they didn't finish the job now, the Zorketh would regroup, and their chances of victory would diminish. "Deploy everything we have," Cass commanded. No hesitation. The final assault began. The Phoenix led the charge, its guns firing in synchronized precision, cutting through Zorketh defenses. Allied ships surged forward, unleashing wave after wave of firepower. The Zorketh retaliated with all their might, but their ships were already crippled, and their fleet was disjointed. The surprise attack had taken away their advantage, leaving them exposed. Cass felt the weight of the moment. The battle had shifted from a fight for survival to a war for the future of the galaxy. The Zorketh had dominated for centuries, but their rule was coming to an end. Humanity had risen from the ashes of despair to strike a decisive blow. "Admiral, we've breached the station's outer defenses," Captain Garrett called out, his voice filled with triumph. "Good. Keep pushing," Cass said, her voice unwavering. "We end this today." The Phoenix surged forward, cutting through the heart of the Zorketh command station. Inside, chaos reigned as the enemy scrambled to mount a final defense. The humans had breached their fortress. The Zorketh had no escape. "Cass," Emma said, her voice urgent, "the core is exposed. We've got one shot at this. A direct hit will cripple the entire station." Cass's eyes locked onto the display. The Zorketh were reeling, their command infrastructure crumbling. But the core was their last chance to ensure the Empire wouldn't recover. One shot, and the heart of the Zorketh would be shattered. "Fire everything we have," Cass said, her voice like steel. "This ends now." The Phoenix unleashed a final barrage. Every weapon, every ounce of energy directed at the heart of the Zorketh's power. The explosion that followed was cataclysmic. The station erupted in a blaze of light, its core collapsing under the immense force of humanity's might. For a moment, everything stood still. The Zorketh Empire had been reduced to rubble. Their forces were decimated, their central command obliterated. Then, the stars seemed to burn brighter. The human fleet had emerged victorious. Cass Steele stood on the bridge, staring out at the wreckage of the Zorketh command station, her mind still processing what had just happened. The battle was over. The war was won. "We did it," Emma said, her voice filled with awe. Cass took a moment to let the magnitude of their victory sink in. The Crimson Wave had not just survived, it had triumphed. The Zorketh had been broken, and the galaxy had been forever changed. "This is just the beginning," Cass replied quietly. "The galaxy is ours now." Humanity's glory had swept across the stars, and the future was theirs to shape. The Crimson Wave was unstoppable. The war was over, and humanity had emerged as the new power in the galaxy.